Hi everyone, this is Jeannie Whalen, Global Training and Organizational Development Specialist here at the Siemon Company, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the second episode of our corporate podcast, Network Connections, the podcast about ICT networks presented by Siemon. In our first episode, we connected with Carl Siemon, President and CEO of the Siemon Company. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that, I recommend it because we learned some things about Carl and his experience with the company over the last few decades, as well as what our company has been doing in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Today on our show, I'm pleased to be joined by our CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, a man that can only be described as a mensch, Mr. Tom Costello. How are you today, Tom?
I'm outstanding. As you know, I love to start my day with a positive attitude, but I'm not sure I really know if a mensch is a compliment or not, Jeannie.
Tom, when I was preparing for this podcast, the word mensch kept coming up. It really means, for those not familiar with the term, it's a Yiddish phrase that translates to a stand-up guy. It's a person with the qualities that you would hope for in a friend or a trusted colleague. And for me, Tom, you're the definition of that word. One of the best things about working here has been that I've gotten to know you and call you my friend. So my intention with this episode is really for people to get to know you a little better and figure out for themselves if they would describe you using that word. Let's start with an easy question. How long have you worked for the Siemon Company?
Jeannie, I've been working at Siemon for more than 18 years. I started the week after 9/11 in 2001, which was another period of tremendous unusual circumstances right after 9/11, just like we're in today with the COVID virus. But I've enjoyed every moment of my years at Siemon.
And before you accepted the job, where had you come from? What made you want to work for this company in particular?
Just before I joined Siemon, I was working in a chemical company, and I was assigned in Asia, so I was living in Singapore. And before that, I was in Korea, and so I was in Asia for 4 years. When I came back and Siemon advertised for a CFO, and the expectation was they wanted to grow internationally, I thought my experience in the international arena would really complement what Siemon wanted to get done.
I love that you lived abroad. I think it really enriches a lot of the conversations that you have that worldview that's different from a lot of people around here. I think that's a great thing that you bring to this company. So as CFO, what parts of the business do you support? Like what departments report up into you?
Well, as CFO, I'm responsible for the finance group, which includes legal. And I also have the IT groups, both the software side and the network side. I'm responsible for purchasing, global purchasing, and also human resources also works for me.
Yes, so I'm in human resources, so we report up into you. I know I can speak for all the people that do that. We're really lucky to have someone like you in your role. You are such a calm, even-keeled, really a focused demeanor that I think is really favorable as a CFO. Is that something natural, or have you worked on that throughout your career?
Well, some people might say I just have the drug concoction working just perfectly, but that's not really true. I have to really give credit to my upbringing in Brooklyn, New York. My dad was a very calm person. I look up to him as someone who had great integrity, but he never got upset about anything. He really felt, and I agree with him, that you can make much better decisions by keeping an even keel and looking at all the aspects of a decision and trying to make the best decision with the available facts. You can't change the things you can't affect. So I never worry about the weather because I can't do anything about it. But I respond by making sure I bring an umbrella when I need one. So some people get up every day and worry about the weather, and I recommend you worry about the things you can change.
I love that. You communicated to the organization at the end of the year that you plan to retire, and this breaks the heart of everybody that works with you, but I know that it's right for you, which is the only thing that's getting us through it. Carl plans to transition out of his CEO and president role at the same time. So in general, the organization will have two significant changes occurring at once. And I know you work closely with the Siemon family. You're part of the Siemon family. and you've worked together with them on this transition to ensure that it's as smooth as possible. What's some advice that you've given to Henry that you could share with our listeners around these changes? Henry is the nephew of the current owners that will be taking over as president and CEO in January 2021.
Well, my advice to Henry is to be as good a person as he can be. He is an outstanding leader, and I think he'll make a tremendous president and next generation in the Siemon Company. He has to work on getting an effective partner in the new CFO, someone who he can trust, someone who has high integrity. And I believe that we're working very effectively towards getting someone like that to partner with Henry in the years going forward.
Yeah, I have no doubt that the fact that you're a part of this decision in terms of your successor is really just contributes so much to the ultimate successful outcome of it. Do you have any advice for your future successor, whoever he or she might be, to help them succeed? And
I've had a great experience working with the Siemon family, and I think the right person will also have that. They're a great group of people, and they want to make a successful business. So if we find someone that complements that, I think it'll work very well. I think that the advice I give them is to make sure you get a good staff of people around you. I have some tremendous associates working with me, and I think that's the key to success in any business, is to have good people working with you.
yeah, I think so. I think you also really trust your people. And I think that extension of trust is what's built a really good environment around you. So I hope that they do the same thing. I really do. So as far as, your next chapter, what are you looking forward to most about retirement, other than regularly having lunch with people like me and the friends you've made here?
Well, I do enjoy an occasional lunch at Roma's, and most people know that. And I will be back once they reopen. But in retirement, I think I'd like to do a little bit more travel with my wife. We have children spread around the country. One is in New York, one is in Maryland, one is in California. And we'd like to be able to spend more time traveling and visiting with them. And also with our living abroad for several years, we've developed friendships with people that have basically moved around the world now. And we'd like to spend more time visiting with them and catching up and seeing how they've made their way. I also want to do more reading. We've talked about this. I like to read a lot of books. I do audio books and I read books as well. And I love talking about books with other people like to read. So I think I'll have more time to do that.
I can't wait. I hope that you start a blog or someone helps you start a blog and you start publishing all of your readings and we can have a book club.
That would be fun.
I would love it. So I have no doubt that if anyone here needed your support after retirement, that you'd be just a phone call or an email away from supporting them. I really get the sense that working here for you has been more than just a job, that it's really your calling. What would you say one of your favorite memories has been during your time with this organization?
I think one thing I remember very fondly was the retreat that we had with the Siemon family, and yourself included, in New Hampshire back in 2018, where we discussed basically outlining the future of the company and how to transition from where we were then to a future state with a new generation of Siemens managing the company. That was a very successful meeting, and I really think that was a key deliverable for my retirement planning.
That makes me feel so good. I'm so glad that you said that. It was such a special moment in my career as well. There's no doubt that I'll ever forget it. Just the open hearts that everyone came with, and the support that they have and the love that they have for Henry and the trust that they're putting in him to be kind of the next generation leader, and the change of John becoming chairman of the board. It really was a really special time. And do you want to talk at all real quick before we go about where we were? We were up in New Hampshire at the lake house, and there is a tree farm there that Cindy Wyatt, the Siemon sister, runs. And you've been really heavily involved with that. I'm not sure if you'd like to mention anything about your participation with that at all before we go.
Sure. So I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of the tree farm. It's called Branch Hill Farm. Some people know it as that. But it was set up by the father of the current owners to basically preserve the environment for future generations. And it's now 3,000 acres under conservation easement. And the board is doing some fabulous work right now. In fact, we just recently had a transition of the leadership there where Cindy Wyatt, Carl's sister, stepped down as the managing trustee of the trust. And it's now being handled by a new hire who's got some great ideas. He's got a strong interest in heirloom apple trees, and we have a new heirloom apple orchard going where people from all over New Hampshire have contributed specimens so that we have unique heirloom apples growing. And in a number of years, it'll be a destination for people visiting New Hampshire to see this glorious heirloom apple orchard.
That's amazing. When we went up there, it was October, and I've never seen, and I've grown up in New York and New England my whole life. I've never seen foliage just so vibrant. It's such a beautiful place to visit.
Yeah, it certainly is.
So before we go, I thought I had reached out to a few of our employees, and I said, what do you guys want to know from Tom? And if it's okay with you, I'd love to ask you them in kind of a lightning round type of forum. So answering with the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the question. Does that work for you? Okay.
Great for me.
If you were on death row and you could only have one more meal, what would it be?
I think it would have to be my wife's sauerbraten, red cabbage, and spätzle.
Your wife is German, and she really knows how to cook those delicacies, doesn't she?
She sure does. It's my favorite.
That's awesome. Okay, next question. Does it make sense to launder money through the Cayman Islands or Switzerland, and why? You don't have to answer that.
No, I'd say if I'm going to give a recommendation, I'd recommend Whirlpool for all laundry.
Very nice, very nice. Next question. Besides having the great honor of working with Rob Galley, what's been your favorite thing about working at the Siemon Company? And I also want you to try to take a guess as to who asked me that question.
I think my favorite thing about working for Siemon is just the people. Everybody I work with is just great to work with and fun to be around. If I had to choose friends, I'd choose them as my friends. And I really think that's what makes Siemon such a special place, is the people.
I agree with you. And I hear that all the time in all the conversations I have is what great people we have. So I love that's your answer. Two more questions. Do you prefer gangster rap or hip hop?
I'd have to say 60s rock and roll.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say 50s or 60s. When we drove up to New Hampshire and you had on the 50s station, It was so funny. I think we knew all the words by heart to every song. And then finally, if you were an animal, so this could be your spirit animal if you'd like, what animal would you be?
I'd say I'd like to be an eagle, because the eagle soars high and has a beautiful view of everything going on.
I love that answer. I fully expected you to say a tortoise.
Yeah,
do you remember when you told me you wanted to be a tortoise?
Yeah. Well, tortoise always wins the race,
That's right. That's right. You have two really good answers.
That's all for today's episode of Network Connections presented by Siemon. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Tom, for joining me. Make sure you subscribe to the Siemon Company YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Upcoming episodes will feature Siemon ICT industry experts that will deliver insight into innovative IT infrastructure solutions that connect our world. From all of us here at the Siemon Company, we hope you and your family are staying healthy and safe during these uncertain times. Please take care.